Let's just dive right in. When we talk about Introduction to Probability Theory and its applications, we're not talking about your average math textbook. Seriously, William Feller's An Introduction to Probability Theory and its applications is basically a cold shower for a confident mind. So in this explainer of Introduction to Probability Theory and its applications, we're going to look at how Feller built a foundational system for actual self-mastery. Think of Introduction to Probability Theory and its applications less as formulas to memorize and more as a rigorous architecture for making decisions. It doesn't flatter you. It asks a really uncomfortable question. How do you choose when the facts arrive dirty? Feller's work absolutely demands restraint before action, and it sharpens your respect for chance.
Choose before you feel ready. Honestly, hold on to that. It's kind of the whole point here. This entire explainer is about learning restraint before action, especially when the picture isn't perfectly clear. Because let's be real, waiting for perfect clarity, that's a trap. The real threat isn't that life is random. The threat is that you just keep treating noise like it's instruction.
We really need to talk about the denominator, and I want to speak very directly to you right now. You might feel incredibly proud of collecting more and more facts before making a hard decision. You probably call it research, right? You call it being careful. But that mechanism, it's literally just delay wearing a scholar's coat. What you actually need isn't more data. You need a better denominator, the basic comparison class that gives all your scattered evidence its actual meaning. Feller demands that you find a better denominator, because without it, panic just crowns itself as reason.
Without a proper denominator, your own mind plays absolutely devastating tricks on you. Let's look at the symptoms of poor sampling. You read one bad email. Your stomach turns. You immediately declare the whole relationship unsafe. You lose once in public. Your face burns. You decide your entire gift was a complete lie. You feel one loud fear, and it instantly becomes your complete reality. See, without that comparison class, a single loud event or fear becomes the whole sky. It literally takes over everything.
So we have this false, deeply ingrained belief that a correct choice will naturally feel calm. The clean choice myth. We sit around and wait for the body to bless the decision with peace. But we absolutely must aggressively separate the quality of a choice from the comfort of the outcome. A structurally sound choice rarely feels clean. Honestly, it often feels like nausea. It feels like leaving unused evidence on the table. It feels like closing a door while still hearing voices inside it.
To break free from that nausea, we need a major cognitive upgrade. The false self wants a verdict, while the refined self wants a range. A verdict says, this exact thing will happen. It's blindly trying to predict the future. But a range clinically maps the shape of risk. This shift from verdict to range is the absolute beating heart of an introduction to probability theory and its applications. It accepts that probability is not about perfect prediction. It's the discipline of carrying uncertainty without turning it into total paralysis.
So the absolutely crucial point here is understanding your expected cost. This is the weighted consequence of each possible error. Look at a tough career decision, for instance. The anxious mind ranks the options by which one offers the most immediate emotional relief. Stop paying for blindness. Start ranking your options by their expected cost. Ask what each path trains into you so you don't end up paying twice for the exact same error.
Let's contrast two ways of seeing the world. The amateur observer reacts to isolated drama. Something goes wrong, and they immediately panic and ask, what happened? They get completely caught up in the vivid details. But the trained observer, they step back and ask, what class of things is this? They categorize the evidence instead of just reacting to the noise. They don't just react, they classify.
To really ground this idea, think about your own immune system. It's like a living mesh inside you. It constantly tests new shapes and fragments against its memory. And most signals, they pass entirely without action. But it triggers heat, swelling, and an aggressive response right at the border of warm blood. Your immune system decides incredibly fast at that warm border, and it does so without ever needing perfect knowledge. It acts on the shape of the risk.
Your mind does the exact same thing. A face goes quiet in a meeting or a client replies with fewer words, and your inner system tags it as danger. You make the old error of treating that tag as absolute truth. But a bodily alarm is not certainty. The tag is not truth. It is merely a signal, and it is a signal with a cost. The threshold is the precise point where attention becomes action. An introduction to probability theory and its applications teaches us that true self-mastery is not about suppressing these bodily signals. It's not about being cold or just ignoring your gut. It's about classifying those signals right at the threshold, distinguishing what requires your attention versus what actually demands your action. It is time to effectively update how we operate. I want you to stop endlessly seeking more data. Stop waiting for the perfect spreadsheet or the final piece of undeniable proof. You feared being seen with incomplete light. Now I need you to explicitly name the incomplete light you currently have. Acknowledge what is missing, set a deadline, and operate powerfully within the light that is actually available to you right now.
To execute this, we use a specific 3-step up-go-wise practice before making any hard choice. Step 1. What would I expect if my fear is right? Step 2. What would I expect if my fear is wrong? And step 3. What would change my mind? Write these down. Doing this takes the dramatic theater out of the process and puts the choice cleanly on the table.
That third question? That's your update rule. It is the pre-named evidence that will change a bet, because a refined self makes paid choices. Paid choices have invoices, like time, reputation, and the old identity you literally have to leave behind. By setting a specific review date and establishing an update rule, you prevent your identity from hardening around a single bet. You schedule your humility in advance. This update rule is exactly how we take Feller's and Introduction to Probability Theory and its applications off the page and put it into practice.
We have reached the final piece of this puzzle, and it all comes down to the threshold of a clean choice. A clean choice is not one where your fear magically vanishes. A clean choice is simply one where your assumptions are explicitly named. You know exactly what you are betting on, and you know exactly why.
So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. What evidence deserves your action, and what evidence only deserves your attention? This whole explainer has been about one core cognitive upgrade, replacing the desperate seeking of a verdict with the clear, disciplined seeing of a range. Ask for the class, not the drama.
Access your personal growth map at upgowise.com. Use this as practice, not performance. Choose with clean eyes.